Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Borders. Of course, I'm Mike Ginn. That's Extremo Alex Soto. Coming up next week is going to be LUX 18. But one of the cool things we can do between events and stuff, we'll talk about that next week a little bit more in depth. But this week, we're going to talk about Alessandro Costa, give you a chance to know a little bit behind the curtain, a little bit more about the fighters that you're going to be watching next week on UFC Fight Pass. But first, let me introduce my co-host, Alex. How you doing today, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing good, Mike. Doing really good. I'm excited about this next Crossing Borders episode, and of course, talking about LUX 18, man.
Yeah, because you get to go on vacation down to Acapulco, wear your suit up top and your shorts down low, or however you're going to do it. So I bet I would be excited too. You want to trade? You stay here. You run this network. I'll go down and call the fight card. No?
Okay. I'd love to have you. Come visit us.
Let me get my passport updated. I'll be right there. Funny enough, I actually do have a passport appointment in November. Funny enough, but that's so I can try to get down to Peru. But that's a story for another day.
Okay.
One of the exciting people on this card, Alessandro Costa, is incredible. He's 9-2, one of the best flyweights in the world, especially down in Mexico. Now main eventing. He's the flyweight champion for LUX Fight League. What can you tell the people about this guy? What makes him so special?
His foundation is in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. And that's what really sets him apart from the other flyweights. His ground game is superb. But when he puts it together with MMA, I mean, he's extremely explosive. He's kind of reminiscent almost of like Joe Benavidez, like a very much younger Joe Benavidez, where he's just so explosive, powerful, and is so good on the ground that he's going to be trouble in the if he makes it into UFC, which I think he will. I mean, especially in the flyweight division, I think that's going to set him there. I think he's a great candidate for an up and coming flyweight fighter in the UFC, but what makes him special is that he's from Brazil, living in Mexico, has developed a whole new team down there. Alexandre Grasso. I'm butchering the first name. I'm sorry about Grasso. Then you got Diego Lopes training out, also from Brazil, from Manaus, and all kinds of like high caliber fighters that they all train with, and they basically brew that entire camp. So it's what sets him apart is that he's top level, man.
Yeah, the Brazilian Warriors, that whole camp you're talking about. Yeah, Alex Grasso, probably one of the top female names in the sport. Diego Lopes, all of them have just been making an impact in the UFC, and I'm sure this kid's kind of on his way to being one of the next badass flyweights to kind of make that jump, whether it's UFC, Bellator, PFL, which we saw had just a tremendous card last night for their championship. So there's so many avenues for all these fighters to kind of take place. When you saw him fight last time you saw him was LUX Fight League 13. He fought against Martin, first round ground and pound. What happened in that fight, and how did he get that done so quickly?
Well, I think he just caught him off so fast. I mean, he just ate him up. He just ate that guy up, and it was so fast that it really didn't show a lot. But in his previous bout before that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't want to mess up the name, but who was his previous fight before that?
Luis Solozano.
Yeah, so when he was fighting Lozano, that was a brawl, man. That was a sweet fight. If you have UFC Fight Pass and you're looking at Alessandro Costa, look at that fight. That fight shows it was a story of highlight. It was a highlight reel the entire match. And it just shows how it showed us what his capabilities are, and shows just how explosive he is. He's got power in those hands at 125 pounds and just explosive. Both of those guys were really explosive in the back. It was a really fun fight to watch. So take a look at it if you want to get entertained. That's a very entertaining bout. But it also shows what Alessandro Costa has to offer. And he was holding back a little bit too. Because he was matching up and making it really, really fun and exciting fight for the fans.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about Fight League. You're talking about LUX 10. LUX Fight League 10 back in September last year, which was just a back and forth war. Same thing when he fought Diego Ortiz at LUX 7. It was another just wasn't as much of a war, but it's still like 3 rounds, nonstop action, nonstop pace. Before that, he got the quick armbar against Alex Gonzalez way back at Fight League 5. That was close to when you started with Lux, right? 5, or was it like 3 or?
Started at 3. Yep, at 3.
3. So, okay. So not too long after you started.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen him develop under Luke's banner, and we see that that he's just very competitive. That last matchup, like I said, was really exciting to watch, and it's just dominating flyweight division in Mexico. And that's when you're a top tier in your region, you go after the hardest fights. You go after who's the up and coming guys to get your name out there, and Alessandro Costa is doing just that.
We'll talk more about it next week, but how much do you know about his opponent coming up on the 5th?
I like the way you said it, but it's Kike Gonzalez.
Kike, because Enrique, you're right, Enrique Kike. I should have thought about the baseball player. I was just reading it like a dum dum, but go ahead.
All right. So Kike Gonzalez, same very style, very similar in explosive. He's got really strong, powerful hands too. He's very quick. When we talk about flyweight, it's all about the scramble, right? Scramble city is what I like to refer to it sometimes. I mean, he's hard to pin down. He's hard to hold down. He's hard to take down, and he's also a really, really good counter puncher. So it's going to be really interesting how we're going to put how Costa's going to handle. How is he going to handle that? Because Alessandro Costa comes out, hands just flying like crazy, man, and he's always cocked and ready. And that counter from Kike Gonzalez be a little bit of a problem for Alessandro Costa if he gets caught early in the opening minutes.
Yeah, and Kiki's a little bigger than him too. Like he's coming down from 135 pounds, so you want to see if it slows him down or if his power translates at a lesser weight. Sometimes when bigger fighters come down, they don't carry their power down. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of challenge that Gonzalez puts up in that matchup. But of course, we'll talk more about that next week as the main event gets closer, along with all of LUX 18. And let us know at home. Let us know if you like this going behind the scenes a little bit, profiling some of these Mexican fighters that you might not have heard of before. Leave a comment on some of the fighters that you might want us to take a look at. Alex is lucky enough to be right there, San Diego, Tijuana, constantly traveling, Monterrey, Mexico City, Acapulco, and all these different places. Sometimes it's vacation, sometimes it's work, sometimes he's eating cricket tacos. I don't know. But Alex is always in the thick of it, and we love talking about fights. So make sure you leave a comment. Let us know. Who do you want us to talk about next? Maybe we'll talk about it next week along with talking about LUX 18. But just leave a comment. Let us know. Like and subscribe, obviously. Alex is going to cry if you don't subscribe. So you got to subscribe. But now it's probably one of my favorite points of all of our episodes, story time with Alex. Alex was telling me off camera he had a little bit of a story to share with you guys today. So, Alex, the floor is yours, sir.
Man, well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it, man. But it's funny. We were just talking about when we make mistakes and we're and sometimes we feel really bad and we're down on our luck, So for people out there that are suffering or going through some tough, troubling times, I always like to tell them the story. I had just gotten out of the army. I did a year in Afghanistan, came back, kind of got out within months of coming back from deployment, got out and just got out, right, and was into what we like to call the civilian world. But anyways, I ended up getting a DUI. I crashed my car, and so I'm getting DUI, to add to it, right? So I'm sucking, and it was a crazy story, man. So I'm sitting out there, and I don't know how these are in Florida, but in California, it's like if you blow over a 0.08 on scale, yeah, same thing in California, in Florida. Yeah, man. So I was in there, and the cop hey, you got to blow, and I was like, I'm not gonna blow in the thing, and further get me in more trouble. So the guy goes, all right, we're gonna book you in jail. So they strap handcuffs on me, dude. I couldn't believe it, man. So I'm heading out to the downtown at the time, but the guy goes, hey Alex, we're gonna do the breathalyzer on you. If you don't take it, we're gonna take your license for a year, like automatic suspension. By the way, this is circa 2004. To kind of put that in perspective. So that was
Give a time frame, yeah.
Yeah, that's the time frame. So I'm sitting there and I'm like,
we got it, Alex. You're old. We got it.
Okay, yeah, that makes me feel old, man. So,
I'm older than you. What am I saying? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, we're getting old, and it's coming up. But anyway, so I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm blowing, and it comes to 0.08, and I'm like, yes, I'm good. And the guy goes, no, man, I'm sorry. 0.08, dude, that means you're legal drunk. And I'm like, fuck. So I got in trouble, man. So I get him in trouble. And mind you, I had just gotten out of the Army. And so I haven't had a job yet. I didn't even transition into a job yet. I was still living at home and looking for a job. And at the time, being a former infantry guy and trying to find a new job, I was like, okay, I'll do security, right? So I was just starting school, and I was also like going into this area of work where it was like security. So I was gonna be like loss prevention. That was like the job that I was trying to do, and I was trying to study like a criminal justice degree, and I was trying to get into that. Only because my prior service, like what do? I can be a cop, or I can be some sort of whatever. So something in that law enforcement or something, kind of continue on that path.
Something that kind of continues your training from the military, yeah.
Yeah, something. Yeah, to build on what I just started, right? You're 18, 19. I got out when I was 21 years old, so I was like, okay, I guess all I got to do right now. But once I got that DUI, I'm like, fuck, okay, now I'm like, I got to find a new job. So I'm trying to get a job in the whatever and anything, and nobody would hire me because I was in pending litigation.
Yeah.
Everywhere I would go,
they don't want to hire somebody that might be put away for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's just a pending litigation period. Hands down, if you have a pending litigation, no one's gonna fucking hire you. So I'm sitting there, and it's like it takes like 8 months to go through this whole process, man. It's fucking terrible. So regardless, I'm sitting there in the so I'm trying to get a job right now. Nobody's picking me up now. I'm like, what the fuck am I gonna do? I need to get paid. I need to fucking move on. So I meet this friend of mine from high school. It was my sister's friend, and I was like, hey, what's up? How are you doing? Actually, I'm doing good. It's like, hey, I need to get a job. Where I can get a job? And she's like, yeah, well, she works at SeaWorld. At SeaWorld San Diego, we have all the dolphins and stuff. And she's like, hey, Alex, how'd you work there? And I was like, fuck, okay, yeah, I'll see what I could do, and I'll apply. And she would put in a good word for me. So I go over there, I go to SeaWorld, I apply, and the only position that they had available at the time was the education department. And in the education department, you basically just go, hey, this is you're sitting at a station, and then you like teach kids what the fish are and what the
you're basically giving like guided tours and guides of like the exhibit that you're covering.
Yeah, so I go from like jumping out of airplanes and blowing shit up in Afghanistan to like, hi kids, welcome. It was just a crazy transition. But anyway,
let me tell you about this dolphin over here.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, fuck, okay, yeah, whatever. I just need a job. That's all I wanted. I wanted to get some income coming in. So I get the job, but right before I start, they call me like the day that I was gonna start. I remember I was in class, and SeaWorld calls me, the HR department, like, hey Alex, hey, you were supposed to start today or later today. Unfortunately, you can no longer work for SeaWorld San Diego. And I was like, oh shit. Well, why? Why can't I work this? Well, Alex, your criminal background came up, and you have 2 DUIs. You have weapons possessions. You have like disturbing the peace, drug paraphernalia, all these crazy shit on my thing. And I was like, wait, SeaWorld, that's not me. That I don't understand. And she goes, well, I was like, okay, well, maybe the DUI, that one is mine. But the other ones are not mine, you know, and like the other DUI and all the other shit's not mine. So then SeaWorld's like, it's like, oh, well, you need to clear that up with the sheriff's department then, because, you know, this is clearly your fucking, you know, you can't work at SeaWorld. And even because you have that pending DUI, the SeaWorld San Diego at the time was owned by Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah.
And so, like, they're like, if any alcohol-related incidents with those guys, you can't work for them. You know, it's like a, you know, it's a liability for them because they're a alcohol company, right?
Yeah, they're still owned by like the whole Busch Gardens group. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, okay, well, all right, thanks. But I still needed to clear up all the other crime shit. It's not really me. So I go to the sheriff's right after that. I go out there and I show up, and, you know, it's like some lady was there, and I show up really early in the morning, the following day, I should say. And I'm like, I'm in line to go in and talk to this lady, and this lady was on a she seemed a little bit over her head. The lady that was working in the sheriff's department.
Yeah.
She goes, yeah. So I go to explain to her that this is mine, but this is not, and I don't know why it's coming up, yada yada. And she goes, oh, okay, all right. Can you go sit down? I'll talk to you later. Now let me help these other people coming through, because she was busy. And I'm looking at her and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this lady is like, doesn't know what she's doing. And I overhear her say that she's covering for another person that was there, so she didn't know what she was doing, right? So so I'm like, okay, all right, doesn't know what she's doing. So I go over there and ask, hey, so she calls me over and I was like, hey, so this isn't me, and I don't understand why I'm getting all this stuff. She goes, oh, okay, so you're not Alex Soto? I was like, no, I am Alex Soto, but the other Alex Soto has the same name and same birthday as me.
Oh, wow.
So the only difference with us is I was in Mexico, and this Alex was born in San Diego.
Yeah.
So that was really wild, right? So I'm trying to explain to her, no, this is me. So she looks at the computer screen. It's one of those old ass big box, you know, with the
Yeah, 2004. Yeah.
So she turns and looks at it, and you can. It's not very really clear to see, but I started reading it, and I was like, oh, okay, I see where I am and where that other person is, and I could see all of his track record and all of my track record. And so then she goes, okay, so which one's you, or which one's the other guy? And I was like, that guy, that's all him. I was like, okay, I'll just delete them. So she starts deleting the record. Boom, 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 boom. So, and she goes, what about this DUI here? And I was like, that one's also not me. She goes, okay, delete it. So she's deleted my fucking record, and then she sends me then she gives me a card that says, hey, Alejandro Soto, she tells me, if the cops ever pull you over and there's a mis ID, here's a form that you can show the police to let them know that you are not this other guy. You're not this other Alex. I was sitting there going, okay, thanks. So I grabbed my little golden ticket, showed it to you, and started my whole like career in the maritime system. So, and I've been working with dolphins. Well, because of that, you know, I went from there to being a diver, which is the real job I wanted to do at SeaWorld, scrub the pens at SeaWorld. Then I transferred over to become a dolphin trainer. And then from there I went over to the Navy and I started training dolphins for the Navy. And then now I work with the underwater vehicle stuff, with Navy now. So it's just kind of like sends you on a path, you know, that mistake that I made when I was 21 years old, just completely sent me on a completely different path.
But I think the lesson right now learned is that lie as much as you can to get out of what you're doing.
I got really lucky, man. A little bit of luck, you know, a little bit.
I gotta admit, I did not know where that story was gonna go, but thankfully it did have a happy ending, and now Alex is, you know, doing what he loves to do. But I did not know where that story was gonna go. I was like, all right, it's like a roller coaster. It's going here, it's going there, it's going all around. And of course, Alex, you know, go ahead. Go ahead and say what you were going to say.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's been nonstop, man. It's been like, it's all been, I was very fortunate. I met my wife at SeaWorld, and so it's been really lucky, that fortunate. It was the best mistake I've ever made. It's how I like to quote that. But
well,
yeah,
thankfully it did turn out well for you. Obviously you met Joy and everything else, so thankfully it turned out great. Got a beautiful family, and of course, in the meantime, you also jumped into mixed martial arts, had a whole career there, and kind of been having two worlds like you're juggling the entire time. So thankfully it all worked out. And of course, we got you here now with us. So look, there it goes. It worked out fantastic because here you are.
and that's how I got to Crossing Borders. That's how I got here.
There you go. From now on, I'm no longer the host of Crossing Borders. I'm your tour guide. I'm the one that's going to guide you throughout Alex's stories. Just so you know, from now on, I am your tour guide, not your host of the show. That's my new title.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the story. And of course, we profiled Alessandro Costa real quick. Like I said, we'll talk about it all in depth next week before LUX 18. But if you had to give a quick prediction right now, does Costa keep his belt next week?
He could keep his belt. I think Costa gets his belt, and he wins by decision in an all-out brawl, Mexican style fighting, because he's going to be fighting Kike, and Kike always throws down, man. So I think this is going to be a close decision win, Alessandro Costa.
Cool. I mean, I'm excited for the fight. I've seen a little bit of footage on both of them. I'm excited. Obviously, there's much more footage available for Costa, but I'm definitely excited to see it. And then, like I said, leave us a comment at home. Let us know if you like Alex's story time. I always get a kick out of all of them. This one kind of took me for a roller coaster, so it's great. Definitely check out FightersFirst.shop. Support the show, support the brand, Fighters First Network, where you have all these great shows, Crossing Borders among them, as well as Art of MMA, Cage My IQ, Unfiltered. Speaking of getting in trouble, one of the Unfiltered episode that drops tomorrow is a heavyweight boxer, Justin Rolfe, who at one point served prison time. He served like 6 months in prison, got out, completely changed his life, found boxing, and now he's a professional heavyweight boxer. So sometimes you get in trouble, sometimes it turns your life around. It's for the better. So just to kind of piggyback off Alex's story. And of course, check out the Extremo collection. If you really want to support Alex, get the Extremo collection. He's got some dope shirts in there. We're working to put some more shirts in there as well. So make sure you support everything. Leave a comment. We love to hear back from you guys. We love the feedback, whether it's here, over on Instagram. We love to feedback, Twitter, wherever you can find us. All that's in the description below. Alex, I appreciate your time today, buddy. I look forward to seeing you next week. I'm not sure if we're going to catch you traveling or catch you already there, but we'll figure that out behind the scenes and get you guys another great episode next week. Anything else you want to add before we take off today, Alex?
And that's it. Stay tuned. Next week, LUX 18, going to be fire.
All right. Sounds like a plan to me. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Crossing Borders, and we're out.